Hey everybody, by now y'all know I've got an Axiom CNC. Well, I couldn't afford to buy the drawer system that they have, a nice toolbox by the way. If you got the money, spend it. Otherwise, do what I did, and I built myself a custom unit that was suited to my needs. I've got a shelf on the outside of the box. It's got a custom tray here so I can organize my bits and lay them out for different jobs so I can get all my bits ready. I've even installed a can holder to hold my favorite beverage. Wrench holders on the side. And so I've done a lot of unique things to this. Now that's just the side. I've also added a one full drawer across the top with Kaizen inserts organizing my bits, a hardware drawer for holding all of my different hardware and clamps. So done a lot of unique things here, tried some different techniques, some different products. So if you want to see how I did mine, it might inspire you for yours. Well, the only way you're going to know is to finish watching the rest of the video. Let me know what you think.
Alright, so I started by building just a simple box, and I did that off camera. And because this is a welded frame, I did have to do a few little things to make that box slide right in the hole. So I took a hand plane and just chamfered the corners a little bit. Very rough and tumble, but it worked. And so I got that box slid in. It was a tight fit too. Thought I'd go ahead and start laying out for the drawer runners a little bit. And in the meantime, I wanted to make sure this thing wasn't going to move, so I did run some screws, the self-tapping screw, got that countersunk and screwed right into the frame itself. And on the outside, I did put a couple of little ledger blocks. You'll see those later on. So I mounted the Kreg door guide jig to the cabinet, and I had to use a larger clamp to mount it to the frame itself to make that work, but it worked. And these things work super simple. Simply put that on the side of the cabinet and run yourself a screw right into the front hole. Once you get that installed, go right to the back, get one there, and at that point the drawer slide's installed. So just go ahead and get one more in the middle for good sake. And I did come back and put one or two more in the rest of the runners once I got the drawers put in and fitted. So do the same thing to the other side. And then it's time to put the box in. So using the same jigs, you just move them to the outside, and that actually supports your box. Get your front screw in, and once you get the front screw in on both sides, kind of move back just a little bit more, and hit the next hole. The beauty of this is it keeps that drawer box perfectly parallel to the cabinet. And so once you've done that on the other side, you just pull that out a little more and you work your way all the way to the back of the drawer. Now once you get the back one, obviously, press down on these little levers and your drawer slide may be a little different, but on mine this was where the catch was. So do that to take the drawer out and finish installing the screw along the back. And you'll notice that on mine I made this super snug, and it just barely fits on top of that control box. Looks like a winner. Now I did make a divider in this cabinet because I had the control box there. So I used a ledger strip so that whenever I put the pocket holes in, it didn't move. So I clamped it tight to those little scab strips and then did my pocket hole. And I also made a top shelf. And there's that temporary strip I was telling you about. That just keeps the box from wanting to pivot back due to the weight. And so once I get that all screwed in, the top shelf screwed in from the outside and the pocket holes in from inside, everything then will be ready to start installing those next three drawers. Alright. Now I've got the other three drawers the same way I did the top one, using the same method. And now I'm putting some counterbore holes in the face frame. I'm going to get that face frame installed and lined up so that whenever I put my fronts in, everything will be recessed and looking good. Going through the process now, just doing a final sand on the drawer fronts. I did use MDF because this was going to be painted. Originally I was going to use poplar, but I had plenty of this stuff in stock. and thought I'd just use that up. I got that spray painted with that Rust-Oleum metallic titanium silver paint. Really like how that thing looks. It's got a nice metal flake speckle in it. Looks really good. And I've got it taped off, and if you'll notice that angle that I've got it taped at is supposed to match the side of the gantry and the support. And thought I'd do something really cool, so I'm using the Web Effects terracotta, and I really like how that stuff comes out. It looks like silly string the way it sprays, but it looks really cool. It gives it an awesome texture look. So if you've never done anything, this was the first time I've used it. Of course, I did it on some scrap pieces first, but I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. And it turned out fantastic. Get that tape peeled away, and I tried to find something as close as I could, and you'll see now why I chose that angle. It really looks good, and it sort of perfectly matches the side of that gantry support. Now I've laid out the door fronts, and I'm putting double-sided tape on there so it'll make things easier. You'll notice I've got cardboard underneath that first door front. I'm just simply using that as a spacer, and I want to get that sort of locked in, so I'm running screws from the inside of the door box to lock that front on. Something simple like a piece of cardboard works really well, and that was a thin piece of cardboard. Came from like packaging. Just you find trash and you use it, whatever works, right? Repeat that process for the next 2 doors. Get those dialed in, and the double-sided tape just simply holds that on there. There's a lot of ways to do that, and you can certainly check out the tube and see tons and tons of methods for mounting door fronts. This is just the method I chose for this particular project. So I've got that top drawer locked in, and I think that turned out amazing. I may come back and put a panel over the control box, but down the line. So I went in and I painted these little mushroom plugs the same silver, and I decided just what I wanted to use. I was kind of going for something that looked like a little bit of a rivet. Again, just trying some new things here on this project, trying to make it sort of accentuate what was there, and I think that turned out pretty good myself. And there's the drawers. Let's move on to the next phase. So I didn't want to leave the back completely open, so here I'm just sort of laying out, I'm cutting out the holes and notches for wires and for that fan. I did want to make sure that thing did have plenty of room to breathe, but not so much that dust could get in there. So here I'm cutting out a special pocket. I'm using that Amana bowl bit. Oh man, that bit is fantastic. Switching over to an end mill, and I'm doing something a little fancy on this top shelf. Wanted that to be a nice little catch-all tray, so I'm doing a couple of different bits and sort of making out just something fun. I mean, it's a shelves for CNC, so why would I not use the CNC to do something cool on it? And there you go, the Axiom top shelf. Alright, now to finish out the rest of the shelves, now I'm using a 1/4 inch end mill here, and I'm cutting all of these holes just slightly larger than half. I have these special inserts I picked up at Klingspor's woodworking shop that they fit into a 1/2 inch hole, but it allows you to use a 1/4 inch bit in there, so you can drill all your holes out the same size and just slip that insert in if you're going to use a 1/4 inch bit, or leave it as is if you're going to use a 1/2. Now I'll tell you, I ran these based on the 0 on the bed, and I want you to just look at how clean that bed is. This Axiom AR8 is just so precise. It is just amazing. And you can see there's no markings on the bed whatsoever, and it just barely went through the bottom of that material, just the way I planned it. Love this thing. And you can see it's sort of testing out my wrench holder to kind of see how that's going to work. Got it laid out. That's kind of how the shelves are going to be spaced and laid out. Got my drink holder made. Man, this thing is turning out good. I'm getting excited. Bit tray, ready to go. So let's get this sucker painted. Started out by priming everything. Got everything primed nice and clean. Looking good. A couple coats on each side. Then I painted the back black and the shelf backer black. And then of course that titanium silver on the drawers. So I actually made some custom knobs for this using my logo on the front. and I tapered those. I did everything on the CNC and used a nice chamfering bit to achieve that taper. Very cool little project. I enjoyed making those. So I got everything taped off. I forgot to order mask this before I did this, so kind of having to do it after the fact. And I put the plastic dip where the wrenches are going to go to kind of give it a little extra protection, and just used a nice black inside where the Axiom logo is going to be. And that rubber material is also in the can holder, so as condensation and whatnot may occur, won't get any swelling of the wood. I'm drilling out for the knobs. Taped it so I could see that didn't have to damage any of the paint. Get everything drilled out and start putting those knobs on. And you'll notice the back of the side of the cabinet over there, that black back for the shelves worked out pretty well, and I just simply fastened that in from the inside of the cabinet. Now let's get the back on, and you can see how I left the vent there for the fan to blow out. I do come back and put a piece of felt there, or speaker cloth rather, and that's kind of the plan for that. And you can see the shelves turned out fantastic. A little bit sketchy there with the rubber dip for the can holder, but not too bad. Alright, let's get some bits in there. Got my wrenches on. This thing's going to turn out to be exactly what I want. You can see the metallic paint, that red web effects, and those custom green knobs just stand out perfectly. And those green knobs, they match on the controller too. I like it. I do have a plan on coming down and putting something underneath that bottom shelf where the stretcher goes for the stand to kind of fill that out a little bit, but for now, it worked pretty good. Plenty of space for my different bits. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and click that bell to be notified for future videos that I drop out for you.
Hey everybody, by now, you all know I've got an Axiom CNC. Well, I couldn't afford to buy the tool system, or the, take 252. So when you open the toolbox, obviously we've shown you the Kaizen before, but here's some extension on the 1/4 inch bits. And here's my 1/2 inch shank bits. I've still got room for some more there. My V bits, I will be adding more of the traditional V bits here. Ball nose, the RC2255, aka the Beast, and then some basic tool storage that'll go away. Now here's what I worked on while the slab was being cut on. So I have all of my jig hardware, my 5/16, I've got my 3.5 and 2.5 are the two most common that I use. Some of the larger star knobs, I've got plenty of area for those. The knobs I use most commonly there. My pins for my fence system, you know, that I've got those sorted out properly there. Plenty of hardware, 1/4 more cam inserts for my homemade cam clamps. Got a lot going on and still a little room to spare.